The air crackled with tension, thick with the scent of aggression and blood. 12 massive Lupara warriors stood in a perfect circle, their spears angled downward at the fallen cub in the center. Its silver fur was matted with blood, its breath shallow and weak. Laura's boots crunched on the dirt as she stepped forward, ignoring the captain's frantic voice in her earpiece. Laura, stop moving. Those are kill postures. They will execute you. She didn't stop. Every instinct screamed to retreat, but Laura's heart pounded with something else, something far stronger than fear. The warriors growled, their muscles rippling beneath fur, their eyes narrowing. But she pressed on. The injured cub was dying, and she wasn't about to let it suffer alone. With every step, the warriors shifted, but not in attack. They were waiting. The tension in the air grew suffocating as the matriarch arrived, towering above the others. Laura's focus never wavered from the cub. Its leg was broken, and its breathing shallow, but there was a chance. She could save it. I'm going to help him, Laura whispered. The warriors' growls deepened, but they made no move to strike. Laura knelt beside the cub, her heart racing as the warriors closed in around her. Their spears were raised, and every muscle in their bodies screamed at her to stop. But she didn't. She opened her medical kit slowly, every move deliberate. Behind her, the captain's voice crackled through her earpiece, now tinged with desperation. Laura, you're about to trigger a diplomatic disaster. She didn't care. The cub whimpered softly, a sound that made her stomach churn. She had no time for diplomacy. She needed to act. The warriors' growls turned into deep, rumbling roars, their faces twisted with fury. She could hear the other Lupara arriving in the distance, their footsteps heavy. The matriarch was here, but still, they waited. Laura's hands shook as she scanned the cub's injuries. Internal bleeding, a fractured leg, shock setting in. The cub was dying. Every moment she hesitated, it slipped closer to death. She didn't hesitate. She pressed the emergency coagulant injector to the cub's side, the hiss of the device filling the tense air. The warriors did not move. Not yet. They were waiting for something. The air around Laura grew colder as the matriarch's gaze bore into her. The warriors didn't flinch, but the tension in their stance was palpable. Every part of their bodies screamed to end this before it escalated further. But Laura wasn't afraid. She couldn't afford to be. She gently placed her hand on the cub's wounded leg, her eyes never leaving the spear points surrounding her. The matriarch's voice echoed through the clearing, her tone sharp, demanding. "What are you doing?" "I'm saving him," Laura answered, her voice steady. "This cub doesn't deserve to die. Not like this." The warriors shifted, but did not strike. The matriarch stood silent, observing. Laura's fingers worked quickly, activating the bone stabilizer. The cub's heart rate slowed. Its breathing deepened. The bleeding started to slow, but still, the warriors watched. Behind her, the captain's voice crackled with increasing urgency. "The matriarch is right behind you. Do you realize what you're doing? If you die, we lose everything." Laura's answer was quiet, but firm. "Then consider it a cost of doing the right thing." As Laura continued to work, something strange happened. The cub, despite the agony, began to relax. Its shallow breathing slowed, and then, as if in response to the gentleness of Laura's touch, it did something that startled her. The cub nuzzled her hand, a soft, trusting motion that seemed to transcend the terror of its injuries. The warriors behind her remained still. Their spears angled downward, but they didn't move. Something in the air had changed. It was subtle, but undeniable. The matriarch took a slow step forward. Her eyes narrowed, trying to process the impossible. It's responding to you. It's a predator. Why does it act like this? Laura kept her hands on the cub, her voice soothing as she whispered, I'm just helping him. The matriarch was silent for a long moment. The warriors exchanged confused glances, their rigid stances softening ever so slightly. What's happening? The xenobiologist asked through the comm, his voice a mixture of awe and fear. Laura didn't know, but she could feel it. The cub, once terrified, now trusted her. And something in the pack's formation was shifting. The matriarch's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. Explain your actions, outsider. Laura glanced over her shoulder, her eyes meeting the ancient, intelligent gaze of the Lupara leader. I'm a medic. I'm saving your cub. It was dying. The matriarch took a step closer, her massive form looming over Laura. You risked your life for it. Why? Because it's a kid, Laura replied simply. I couldn't just watch it die. The warriors shifted uneasily, still holding their spears, but now their eyes were filled with uncertainty. You are not of our kind, the matriarch mused, her voice softening just a touch. Why do you care for the young of other species? Laura met her gaze without flinching. Because it's the right thing to do. We don't need to be the same species to care. The warriors stood in stunned silence, and for the first time, their spears lowered a fraction more. The matriarch, once full of authority, now seemed to be contemplating something far deeper. Laura continued to comfort the cub, its body now resting against her side. She didn't dare look around. She could feel the weight of the warrior's stares, the matriarch's probing gaze. Every movement felt like it might tip the balance, but still, she pressed on. The matriarch finally spoke, her voice low. You have broken our laws, disrupted our hierarchy. I didn't mean to, Laura said, her voice soft but steady. I just saw a hurt kid. I did what anyone would do. The matriarch's eyes flickered with something Laura couldn't read. For a long time, no one spoke. The warriors stood like statues, unmoving. Laura's mind raced. She didn't know what she had done, but she knew this wasn't just about one cub. The Lupara were changing in front of her eyes. The dark-furred warrior, the largest of them all, stepped forward. His voice rumbled, deep and filled with confusion. You didn't just save the cub. You've broken our instincts. Laura hesitated. I didn't break anything. I just acted. The warrior's piercing gaze never wavered. You're not just a medic, are you? You're something more. Behind her, the cub shifted, pressing its head closer to Laura's side. The warriors, their instincts still rattling, took a step back. Laura's heart tightened. She had no idea what this moment meant, but she knew one thing for sure. Her presence had changed everything. The warriors' spears had lowered by nearly half. The air had shifted from one of hostility to one of uncertainty. The matriarch watched Laura and the cub, her eyes narrowing as if trying to decipher a riddle. You understand, the matriarch said quietly. This is not just about one cub. Laura nodded, her heart racing. I know. I just didn't want to see him die. The warrior's movements were now slower, more deliberate, as if they were trying to process what had just happened. The matriarch stepped back, her eyes flicking between Laura and the cub. The cub has bonded with you, the matriarch said, her voice tinged with disbelief. He recognizes you as Pack, but you are not of our kind. You are human. Laura felt a knot form in her stomach. What does that mean? The matriarch's voice softened. It means that our hierarchy has been altered. The warrior's growls were quieter now, almost contemplative. The bond between Laura and the cub was undeniable, and the Pack was unsure how to respond. What will you do? Laura asked, her voice steady, despite the uncertainty that clung to the air. The matriarch remained silent, her eyes distant, and for the first time, Laura realized that her actions had set something much bigger into motion. The matriarch stood, towering over Laura. Her fur was the color of storm clouds, streaked with silver. Her eyes gleamed with ancient wisdom, but now there was something else there, something new. You have disrupted our system, but perhaps... The matriarch paused, her voice quiet. Perhaps it is time for our species to adapt. Laura's pulse quickened. Adapt? To what? The matriarch's gaze softened. You have shown us that there is more than survival. There is compassion, the way you care for the young. It's unlike anything we've seen. Behind her, the warriors exchanged glances. The dark-furred one stepped forward, his voice hesitant. You've broken our instincts, but you've also healed our young. The matriarch's gaze never left Laura's face. Perhaps the old ways need to change. Perhaps humans can show us a better path. Laura, though stunned, held the cup closer. You can't be serious. The matriarch's voice was calm. We are, and it's time for the galaxy to understand what humans can offer. The council was convened in haste. Representatives from multiple species gathered, their voices reverberating through the holographic chamber. Laura stood in the center, the cub still curled at her side, pressing against her leg. The council debated fiercely, the weight of her actions reverberating through every corner of the room. The Vrixian delegate, known for their cold and calculating nature, was the first to speak. Humans have caused irreparable damage. If what we witnessed today becomes widespread, we could lose control over our species. Laura stood her ground. I didn't come here to destroy anything. I came to help. The matriarch stood, her voice ringing out. Perhaps we need to rethink what it means to be a species. Perhaps humans are not the threat we believed them to be. Perhaps they are the future. The debate continued, but the seeds of a new understanding had been planted. The galaxy was shifting, and so too was the role of humans in it. The council's decision was made. Humans would be formally recognized as juvenile welfare specialists across the galaxy. It wasn't a title Laura wanted, but it was one that was thrust upon her and her species. The matriarch gave her one last look. You will change everything human, but I suspect you already know that. Laura stood, cradling Rusty in her arms. I didn't mean to. But deep down, she knew. Perhaps, just perhaps, humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their ability to conquer, but in their capacity to care. And as Rusty stirred in her arms, his soft chirps filling the chamber, Laura realized that sometimes the smallest actions, ones driven by empathy, could change the course of an entire galaxy.